This story is incredible. It's about chance, luck, and how a struggling burger joint rose to become one of the largest fast food chains in the world. In 1957, while McDonald's doubled its restaurant numbers every year, a failing Florida startup named Insta-Burger was on the brink of bankruptcy. This same startup would eventually become the global fast food giant we know today as Burger King. But what becomes before that is quite insane. Spoiler, it involves smashing up stuff with an axe. The fast food craze, sweeping America in the 1950s, was reaching its peak, with McDonald's leading the way. The company's success was due to its unique assembly line style kitchen called the Speedy Service System, which made food production, well, fast. Then came Keith Kramer and Matthew Burns, who wanted to replicate McDonald's success. The duo discovered two pieces of culinary equipment called the Miracle Insta Machines. The first was the Insta Shake machine that could make 4 flavors of milkshakes in just 6 minutes. The second was an Insta Broil oven, which had an automated conveyor system that cooked an endless stream of beef patties and also toasted the buns. For Keith and Matthew, who were more concerned with volume and efficiency than quality, the Insta Broiler oven was perfect. Hence, they made a deal with the inventor of the machines and used them to create Insta-Burger, which would later become Burger King. While Burger King may not like to admit it, the entire business was heavily inspired by McDonald's. Unfortunately, the Insta Broiler oven they brought was nowhere near as good as McDonald's intricate system. It broke down almost every few days and produced low-quality burgers. While construction of the first Insta-Burger restaurant was underway in Jacksonville in 1953, Keith and Matthew found their first franchisee, David Egerton, who was impressed with the fast food concept despite the faulty equipment. He significantly improved the cooking equipment and later partnered with another franchisee, James McLemore, to buy out Keith and Matthew's interest in the company. McLemore would become the mastermind behind Burger King's Whopper, a burger that would eventually become one of the most popular fast food items worldwide. But before that, here's the story. David's first Miami store wasn't going too well financially. He had no more capital to invest and needed a partner. After being turned down by several restaurateurs, he met James McLemore, who owned a small local restaurant called the Brickell Bridge and was skilled in business and management. When he met David, he was immediately drawn into the idea of opening multiple fast food restaurants together, and both agreed that running a single restaurant wasn't their future. For such a small business, David believed his first Insta-Burger King restaurant was making a profit of around 28% of sales. James agreed to partner with David, but asked to see the books. Unfortunately, David's financial records were unprofessional and unorganized, and James discovered that David's belief that the store was making a 28% profit was utterly wrong. Insta-Burger King was operating at a 56% loss. Despite this, James didn't abandon the idea. James and David teamed up to open a chain of stores together, considering they shared the same vision and values. They invested every penny they had in the business, even though it was losing money. Instead of addressing the problems with their existing Miami outlet, they opened 2 more locations, which only exacerbated their issues. They convinced a wealthy friend of James's father-in-law to invest $65,000 in exchange for half of their business to keep the business afloat. However, instead of reducing their debt, they used the money to open 3 more locations, plunging Insta-Burger King further into debt. One day, when one of the unreliable Insta broilers broke down again, David was so frustrated with the machine that he smashed it with a hatchet. But instead of replacing the broken machine with another Insta broiler, David built a better one himself with help of a local mechanic. The new machine was a flame broiler that ran on gas instead of electricity. It was more reliable and created the signature flame-grilled flavor of Burger King's burgers. The breakthrough breakthrough invention was the key to Burger King's future success, but James and David still had many more failures to go through before that. David and James's new burger making machine was a hit, so they visited the founders of Insta-Burger King, who were struggling with their restaurant. Keith and Matthew blamed their location for their poor sales and planned to buy a movable, prefabricated stainless steel building for their next restaurant. David and James visited the new restaurant. It didn't have a single customer, but James stumbled upon a rundown burger stand nearby. He joined the very long queue and noticed that everyone was ordering hefty quarter-pounder burgers served on 5-inch buns with a mountain of toppings. James purchased 2 of the giant sandwiches and gave one to David, and they both agreed that it was the best burger they have ever tasted. James suggested making a burger like that, calling it the Whopper, and advertising Insta-Burger King as the home of the Whopper. Despite the risk of charging 37 cents for the burger, David agreed when competitors charged just 15 cents. The Whopper became an instant hit with its quarter-pounder patty, toppings, and flame-broiled flavor. It gave Insta-Burger a unique selling point, and they became a fierce competitor in the fast food industry. With increased sales and returning customers, James and David had finally turned the Insta-Burger King of Miami around. Many businessmen noticed the company's potential and asked about opening franchises elsewhere. In 1959, Keith and Matthew defaulted on their loans, which were taken over by Ben Stein, who knew little about the fast food industry. This was an opportunity for James to ask Ben if he and David could become the owners of the company's national and international franchise rights. The deal was sealed, with Ben receiving 15% of all the money they made without doing any work, and James and David running the company. The company's name was officially changed to Burger King, and they set their sights on becoming the top fast food franchise in the country, which meant competing with McDonald's. Burger King was catching up with McDonald's in terms of growth, but everything changed in 1965 when McDonald's went public with an initial stock price of $22.50 a share. By the end of the day, the stock value hit $30, and McDonald's had the upper hand. James got excited, thinking that they might be able to catch McDonald's in a few years and become number one. However, with McDonald's now having the advantage of going public, this would be challenging. One of the biggest food producers in the world, Pillsbury Company, approached Burger King about a merger in 1967. James was eager to strike a deal, but David was uncertain until he eventually saw the merit of the merger. The deal required James to stay CEO for at least 5 years, with an increased salary and an autonomy to run Burger King as he saw fit. Pillsbury committed to granting Burger King access to its resources, allowing James to assign others to handle some day-to-day operations. Pillsbury absorbed Burger King for $18 million, resulting in James, David, and Harvey owning 10% of Pillsbury. However, Pillsbury had no intention of letting Burger King operate autonomously. As a result, David resigned in 1969, and James stayed with Pillsbury, but pushed them to either take Burger King public or restructure its franchise model to more closely resemble McDonald's. Pillsbury was unwilling to take the same risk as Ray Kroc had with McDonald's, and felt that Burger King's growth needed to be faster, allowing franchisees to become overly independent. They chose to slow growth until the franchisee situation was resolved. James then stepped away after his contractual 5-year commitment, but remained a consultant and brand ambassador for Burger King until he died in 1996. The company had continued to be successful, but Pillsbury's plans for steady growth didn't match James and David's expansion plans. Pillsbury began a plan called Operation Phoenix. They poached Donald Smith, a high-ranking executive from McDonald's, and he initiated several critical changes to Burger King using lessons he'd learned from his time at McDonald's. For example, as Burger King expanded, the company began purchasing more land to lease to franchisees, giving a new revenue source and giving them more control. With the help of Donald Smith, the menu was broadened, and the look and feel of the overall overall Burger King restaurants were standardized, setting a solid foundation for future growth. However, corporation ownership passed between numerous investment firms, some pushing for faster expansion. In 2002, TPG Capital purchased Burger King for $1.5 billion, generating a record-breaking $425 million revenue during the IPO. Burger King's revenue continued to climb, reaching $2.54 billion in its best year in 2009, with over 12,000 outlets worldwide. In 2010, 3G Capital purchased a 31% stake in Burger King for $3.6 billion and merged the company with Tim Hortons to form Restaurant Brands International, the current parent organization of Burger King. Today, Burger King's present value is between $7 to $10 billion. Despite changes in ownership, the foundation of the fast food empire was laid by James and David's relentless determination and risky investments. And while the key ideas behind their business were practically stolen, Burger King has stolen many hearts worldwide to become one of the best and biggest names in fast food business. And that's it. So be sure to catch our next video featuring more authentic success stories from top brands, why KFC's founder sued his own company.